And would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I get roll call, please?
Sure. Erica Connor?
Here.
Mary D. Moore? Here. Jeff Fredericks? Joel Fredericks? Here. Andy Mankey?
Excused.
Greg Burt?
Excused.
Jeff Vogel?
Here.
Bill Warner? Here. Jerry Winchowski? Here. Emily Gulsack? Excused. And McKenna? Here.
Hey, this is an open meeting and it
I'm
has
here
been...
too.
Oh,
Art, you didn't put you on? No, I'm kidding. You're on.
Art's here.
Sure, great.
We're glad you're here, Art. This is an open meeting. It has been noted as such. We have a number of citizens' comments that were emailed in that we will have Jeff go ahead and read for us.
The first citizen's comment is from Jennifer Ellertston. It says, I want to thank the school board and all the teachers, aides, and staff that have worked tirelessly to enable in-person school at the high school this year. As a senior parent, I am very grateful for the opportunity to give them some semblance of normalcy in their last year. The difference in the overall mental health of both my kids has significantly improved since last spring. Thank you so very much, Jennifer Ellertson, and that was sent from her phone. This is from Amanda Wenzel. Hello, I would love to offer a suggestion I'm surprised wasn't always in place yet. I notice parents and adults at pickup mostly have no masks on. I feel if they can't go into the building without masks and expose our kids who are required to wear them, why are we picking up adults allowed to walk amongst many kids and other adults at pickup and not wear them? I do think it is a simple thing to ensure our kids stay safe and a good example to set if we make them wear them. What aren't we? Why aren't we? Thank you. This is from Denise Fikesen. Hi there, my child attends Big Bend Elementary and we are so pleased with how you are handling this very difficult school year. Your ability to pivot portions of the district all while keeping all trains on tracks is amazing. Thank you for your dedication, for the safe return, and keeping kids where they should be. I had a wild idea about winter break. I'm sure it wouldn't work for all parents, but is there anything cookie cutter these days? I was thinking, what if kids did virtual learning on 12/21 and 12/22 and the week of return? This would allow safer family get-togethers and a safer in-person return to school. Just a far-fetched idea I thought I'd throw out there. Thank you again. Keep up the great work. Denise Fikesen. This is from Chris Grawl. Hello, my name is Chris, and I have had one child graduate from MHS. One is now a freshman, and one is at PVMS. I first would like to commend the entire hardworking staff at the MSD, especially this year when they are literally putting their lives on the line. What I would like to address is homework. On a typical day in my children's life, just like a lot of other children, they get about 6 to 8 hours of sleep. The American Academy of Sleep recommends for middle school is 9 to 12 hours and high school 8 to 10, which is pretty hard to do. They have to get up around 5 or 6 to get ready for school, and so they can make it to the bus by 6:45. To get the sleep that is so desperately needed to developing children's brains and body, they would have to be in bed by 8 p.m. But in today's world, academics alone do not get you the scholarships which most families need to allow them to attend decent university. You need to be in sports clubs and do volunteer work, and most kids over 15 need a job. I'm not asking to abolish all homework, but I do think it's fair to the children. I don't think it's fair to the children, the burden of stress of what really comes down to time, almost 8 to 9 hours of school with travel, but not including extracurricular activity. than clubs or sports, and expect them to do 1 to 3 hours of homework. Thank you, concerned parent. This is from Chris Hill. To the Mukwonago School Board and the entire Mukwonago school system staff, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the Mukwonago School Board members for voting to open up our school system with full days during these difficult times. But more importantly, I would truly like to thank each and every staff member of the Mukwonago school system for giving our kids the opportunity to continue to receive a first-class education. Without all of you, we just have a bunch of buildings. You, the staff, are what make these buildings schools. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for giving our children the chance to learn and grow. Sincerely, Mukwonago resident Chris Hill. P.S. Keep the mask rule in place. Although it is irritating for all of us, the kids seem to have adapted pretty well, and it gives us the best odds of keeping our schools open. This is from Nikki Verheiden. I just want to take time to thank you all for all you are doing. Your plan and continual proactive actions have kept the cases low and the kids in person longer than I expected. I feel confident in sending my child, knowing everything is being done to keep her, her classmates, and her teachers safe. Please continue to stay the course. Thank you, Nikki V. This is from Lisa Deppie. Fear, it's going to be a dark winter. Fact, according to the New York Times, as of October 20th, 2020, there are 33 phase 1 vaccines testing safely and dosage, 15 phase 2 vaccines in extended safety trials, 11 phase 3 vaccines in large-scale efficacy tests, and 6 vaccines approved for the earlier limited use. Fear, but the news says people are dying in the streets. Fact, too much of the COVID-19 news coverage is focused on cases and provides too little information on how sick those infected are. There is also too little reported about hospitalizations and deaths. Finally, there is too little reported about the ages of those testing positive. I can provide all that information, but ask you to dig a bit for yourself and do some learning rather than blinding, believing news reports. Fact, follow the science. The lockdown and contact tracing strategy is the worst assault on the working class since segregation and the Vietnam War, period. Lockdown policies have closed schools, businesses, and churches while not enforcing strict protocols to protect high-risk nursing home residents. University closures and the economic displacement caused by lockdowns have led millions of young adults to live with older parents, increasing regular close interactions across generations. We need to get better at protecting the old and other high-risk groups for whom COVID-19 is more dangerous than influenza. By contrast, for children, COVID-19 is less dangerous than influenza. Children and low-risk young adults should be allowed to live near normal lives as they face greater medical, psychological, and economic harm from lockdowns than from COVID-19. Immunity among low-risk young adults could also shorten the length of the pandemic, making it easier for older adults to protect themselves. This is a fact. Please read the Great Barrington Declaration, and if you agree, sign it. Fear. This is our entire response, is protecting children's futures. Fact, a report from McKinsey & Company found that disrupting in-person classes through January 2021 could result in the loss of 61,000 to 82,000 lifetime earnings for the average K-12 student in the United States. Fear, deaths are rising, look at the numbers. Fact, the reporting of COVID-19 deaths has been manipulated by money, politics, and fear. For example, on October 21st, 2020, 95 COVID-19 fatalities were reported in Florida. 16 had at least a 2-month separation between the time the individuals tested positive and passed away. Another 5 had at least a 3-month separation. Meanwhile, 11 of the fatalities reported on October 21st occurred more than a month ago. Our fact checkers are not checking the facts. This sort of numbers manipulation is happening all over our nation. If you'd like more, again, I encourage you to be curious, research, and learn. Fear. State Fair is now a hospital. It's bad out there. In fact, Waukesha County, with a population of 398,879 as of October 25th, 2020, has had 75 COVID-19 positive patients hospitalized over the past 7 days. 75 of the county's 398,879 residents, 75. That is 1/100% of our county's population. Fear, keeping kids apart and at home is keeping kids safe. In fact, the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics have stated that in-person instruction provides students the best and most equitable opportunities for academic, social, and emotional learning, as well as opportunities for exercise, healthy meals, mental health services, and their safety. Fear, lawsuit will break us. As we wait for our Wisconsin legislature to reconvene and pass LRB 6434, liability for COVID-19 on premises, to provide a statewide liability shield, a liability waiver for MASD families can effectively protect you from that fear. Fear, we are going to run out of substitute teachers. Fact, there are many capable, able, and willing residents like me that would be interested in hearing more about how we can help keep in-person learning going and not just from a newsletter. This is important. Start making calls and communicating with people, much like our current national CEO does. As Winston Churchill said, it is no use saying we are doing our best. We've got to succeed in doing what is necessary. Sincerely, Lisa Deppie.
That's it.
And the last one.
No, we'll save that one.
The last one is
Jeff, save that one. We're not gonna read that one.
So again, that one we will discuss in executive session, as it does include names of the student, their disability, and individual staff members. And so we won't do that in public.
all right.
Okay, we do not have student learning report on the agenda, do we?
Yes, you do. I do.
Where am I missing?
You mean
It's right there under consent agenda.
No, sorry, I'm talking about
the student report?
student rep report.
Oh,
Yeah.
so rep, okay.
So we'll go ahead and do,
Yeah.
are you prepared for that? Okay, thanks. All right, McKenna.
All right, we'll start with Mukwonago High School. Firstly, Mr. Matner, a science teacher at the high school, would like to applaud his students for their hard work during a tough science unit this year, this week, which is the gel electrophoresis lab. In Ms. Shallow's Human Child Care Services class, she has, and I'm in that class, which has been very fun, she has made toys for infants and sent them to the local daycare center. Something that's been hard for her during COVID has been the fact that they can't bring children into the school. Usually they make curriculums and then see how well that they work with children. So instead she's been sending our projects to daycare centers, and we can Zoom and see how the kids react to them. Miss Kelly Kowazinski would like to give a shout out to the IT services at the high school for their hard work finding a lot of Chromebooks for middle school students as well as high school students during COVID shutdowns, as well as the new help desk, which has been very beneficial for students. And Ms. Rakia, guidance counselor at MHS, would like to applaud the hard work she's seen as far as in grades with students going virtual with less Fs than usual. At Parkview, we have Miss Arn's flight and space students. They celebrated World Space Week with a giant moon map, which has been very fun to see the pictures of. And they had a speaker who came in to talk about the dangers of substance abuse, as it was Red Ribbon Week, and encouraging students to stay away from drugs and alcohol in their futures. We have a teacher who created a living wall in a green architecture class, which is a wall that they covered in plants, and hopes to not only teach the children about plants, but also to provide kind of an anti-stress and productivity environment, as caring for the plants, helping them grow, can help students, I suppose, just find a little bit more purpose, and the stress of COVID can, of course, affect mental health, as it has. Teachers continue to get their students outside. We see science classes going out more often, and then of course the sports, gymnastics, cross country, girls basketball have been doing well at the middle school. At Big Bend, Mr. Dave Wierzowski, he was named MASD Rotary Employee of the Month for October, so congratulations to him. And at Big Bend, they've continued Buddy Little Buddies Buddy Little Buddies, which is like, I have it down, book buddies, sorry, that's what I was looking for. So they'll read together virtually, and that's been a cool way that they've been able to deal with COVID but still get together. Clarendon had 2 winners for a PBS Kids Writing Contest, which was actually a pretty big deal. I looked into it. They had their books published, and you can, the virtual link on the virtual handout of this, you can read their books. And it was fun to read the students' work. And then they went on a virtual field trip to the zoo. Eagleville continues to get their kids outside, as they're always really good at doing. Virtual teachers continuing to work hard to form connections with their students. And they reported that the Waukesha County Courthouse has created a digital showcase for their artwork as opposed to a in-person showcase, which has been very exciting, as Eagleville has had students who have been displayed in that showcase. Students' artwork has been displayed. And at Prairie View, they said that they've continued with their outdoor learning, which has been very, very fun for the students to have a mask break, especially at that young of an age. Rolling Hills, Mr. Lindsay's 5th grade class has begun on politics, teaching their students about Republicans and Democrats in the upcoming election. I have a brother in that class, and it was fun. He learned a lot, and he was able to share a lot of his insight with me. It was very impressive. And then section, encouraging music and art during this month as well. I would say overall what I noticed is a really beautiful dedication that I've seen teachers giving to their students. A lot of times they could have just canceled a field trip or canceled book buddies, but they found a way to deal with COVID and to find an alternative for their students. The fact that we even get to come to school has been really amazing as well, that instead of just shutting down, which could be the easier alternative, that teachers are willing to work hard to teach outside, to change curriculums, and all of that. So yeah, really beautiful dedication across the board would be the overall thing I noticed this month.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we're
Thanks,
gonna move.
McKenna.
I know, I'm like, what else you got over there? She's making everything sound so lovely. I love it. Consent agenda. I'm looking for the approval of board minutes from September 28th, 2020, and the approval of voucher numbers 130314 to 130651 in the amount of $2 million and change, and September 2020 totaling $3.6 million and change. Do I have any questions or concerns? Okay, then it is passed by consent. We will move on to our committee updates. I have gotten a little bit of feedback from our citizens that do listen into the meetings. They're like, you guys don't talk about anything, so I just want to clarify that as we go through these updates. These are from committee meetings that have happened throughout the month where we've been able to speak at length and talk and ask a lot of questions and do that work there. So you're just kind of getting the summary and the update. So we'll start with student learning.
Okay, for student learning, we had several citizens' comments, one regarding the parent-teacher conferences and one in regards to the Indian nickname. I would assume they came to some of your other committees. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future. There was nothing brought forward from it. We reviewed some policies, and the ones that we could have been brought when we get to the end as far as approving those. We talked at length a little bit about the high school math credits for the Parkview Middle School, but there still is some research that has to be done, so we will still be talking about that at our next meeting and bringing that information back to you again. The committee was updated on the virtual schools with some of the classes that are being offered. We've had to buy some additional books and things that go with those classes, but it's for 1 year only. So that's what was on there. If anybody has, that's an action item. So if anybody has any questions about that. Okay. Stephanie gave us a update on the learning that's being done in quarantine and how the teachers, even when they're quarantined, are teaching from home, and how it seems to be going really well. Stephanie, do you have anything else?
I do not. Okay, so then Personnel Committee. Jill, would you mind?
No, that's no problem. I'll be happy to do that. So
Our key focus for this meeting was to discuss substitute teacher challenges, and we, as a group, determined that we would recommend for approval, which is an action item tonight, to increase our pay rate to $130 a day, with an increase to $145 for those that work for 20 days or more. We also recommended or took the approval recommending for approval that we will offer a stipend for teachers who every 12 days they will receive a $250 stipend with a cap of 3,000, 2,500, 1,000. Pardon me. Okay. So that is an action item that we'll review tonight, and some general COVID updates and continued awareness of where we are, and that we're trying to and making pretty good progress in terms of keeping our schools open, which is our big focus, as always. And we had also a discussion for employee group compensation changes, which will be handled in executive session.
Thank you. And then lastly, finance and facility.
Hey, we had one transportation concern that came before us and was handled. Virtual lunch accounts and food service update. Tom, did you have anything to?
I'm sorry. I just gave an update to you guys about the accounts and the participation rates there.
And that'll continue through the rest of the year then?
Yeah, that was extended by the USDA to, originally the deadline was to expire at the end of the calendar year or when funding ran out, but a change was made, and now those free lunches will continue throughout the remainder of the school year.
Okay, and then we discussed the prorating parking fees at MHS, and we decided not to prorate them for part-time employees or students, that they're just gonna pay the same rate as everybody else. And then we talked about the Fund 73 investment update. You wanna go over that?
The rates are positive, but they're not
We're
big.
not negative. All right.
Okay, so we will go ahead and move into action items. It appears on my end that we do not have any appointments, resignations, or retirements. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So then we will move into the Neola policy updates. Most of these are just legal wording. Did everybody get a chance to look through them?
Yep, yes, I did.
Okay, is this something that everyone is comfortable waiving a second reading for?
Yep, I'm fine.
Yeah. Would somebody like to make the motion to waive the second reading?
I'll make a motion
that we waive the second reading.
I'll second it.
Policy updates.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
I'm sorry, who had the second there?
Jill and then Mary.
Thank you.
Sean, did you have anything that you wanted to say about the policies at all?
In my memo, I had a couple of notes.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that everybody saw those, to make sure, for example, that in policy 5113, that we're going to have to modify our current process when it comes to identifying how many open enrollment seats we will have, and we do that in January. It's just a legal change, so we can be in compliance with state law. But it might be something that we may want to talk to our legislators about when they join us, if they do, in February or March before the budget discussions start. I have a number of things that I'd like to talk to those guys about.
Yeah.
So that would be one. If you don't mind, I'll just include the Title IX policy, which is a little bit farther down on the agenda. So that was something that we did not include in this original Neola policy update because Susan was working on updating that policy. Not quite sure, but Susan, I think I told you she had knee replacement surgery last week, so weren't quite sure if we were going to be able to bring this forward tonight. But the Title IX policy does have extensive changes due to new regulations issued by the United States Department of Education. Maybe you've seen some of that in the news reports. So the requirements on how we handle sexual harassment complaints, that process has changed. And so the Title IX policy changes that you have tonight, quite extensive, really nothing that we cannot do. We need to follow the new federal regulations. So this policy has been updated by Neola and Susan. And so the things in there are required by federal law now. And so if you want us to bring that back again, if you want more time to look at it, because we didn't get it into the packet into the board docs website until today. That's no problem. We can wait until November for final approval. But in some way, it's similar to the other Neola policy updates. It is legal compliance changes.
Do you guys want to wait on that one?
Why? I mean, if we can't do anything
legal.
about it,
If,
makes
That's-
no sense.
if you had more questions,
That's fine.
it's up to you guys.
So
Can that be emailed to us? I would at least like to see the things that we're voting on.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where,
It
where
is
is it?
here,
I don't
right?
I don't see it.
Yeah, it's on,
On the
Number
It's
agenda,
not on,
It's number 8.
it's number 8 of
Yeah.
the action.
Oh,
items.
it's
yep.
not in the list.
so I'm looking at it.
Okay, thank you.
It's red and green like Christmas.
Yeah, there's a lot of red.
Oh, wow.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
For 5113,
Yes.
that one's, there's nothing, we have, those things are not something that we can do differently either. That's the one with the.
That's the open
right?
enrollment sheet?
Yeah, right,
Right.
those are just, they're just the new
So
rules.
that was to get us in compliance with state law, right? So that's nothing we could decline it, but then we wouldn't be in compliance.
Is it new? In other words, have we just not been in compliance, doing it the way we were doing it, or did they change something?
I would have to, I don't think I have that information if it's new or we were not in compliance, but I can tell you that
We need to be in
Neola's pretty
yeah.
good about making sure
Yeah,
that
right.
we maintain compliance, so I'm assuming it was an adjustment to the state law,
Okay,
at least in the spirit of the state law. And the legislators clarified that they want to make sure that districts are not, the spirit of the law states that is meant that you are going to give an accurate reflection. One step back. The open enrollment law is intended for parents to have choice. So in theory, all parents should have a choice on whether they want to send their children to their home district or to another district. And what they don't want is districts not giving an accurate reflection of their openings, how many open seats they have in January. So I think this is a push to make sure that districts are accurately reflecting what they have available for open seats for open enrollment. The challenge is in January, do you really know how many seats you'll have open by the time the school year starts? So it's hard, but
okay, and then with the one with the 5330, is that also something that we really have no control over, and how does that affect our health rooms, our kids?
so it does prohibit the possession of CBD, is that
Right.
what, CBD oil?
Right.
So I think because it's not a regulated substance, I think, I'm not gonna pretend that we don't have some students or even staff that might have CBD oil, but what we don't want them is sharing it with others, that's for sure. They're not to bring it to school, but because it's not regulated, I'm sure, even though some parents don't mind that their child may have it, there's other parents that don't want their children to have it, so they wouldn't want it to be shared or passed around at school. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Well, I
But-
read it after you pointed it out, and I'm like, okay, so what is the repercussions of it, and is this another one that this is a law, and
It's
this
a
is,
compliance with state law.
so
Yep.
it's really,
Mhm.
Well, and I guess as I read it in my mind, it sounded a lot like ibuprofen or Tylenol or things that you're supposed to have in the health room, right? You can't just have on your person in school?
You can if you fill out a form.
If you fill out the form.
Give your student permission.
Correct.
And that does not apply then for the CBD, giving students permission to have it on them?
Not that I'm aware, but again, I can come back with more information. That's why I included it in there, because it's relatively new.
Yeah.
And so if there are more questions, we can bring back some better answers.
so what I heard you saying is, like, if my child can have Tylenol, you can send a note, and they can go down, and they're allowed to, the
can fill
health
out
room
the
can give them Tylenol. But they could not do that with CBD if you felt that.
That's my understanding. So I can come back with more information on that.
Okay.
Again, because it's not a regulated substance, I think that's the difference there. So
So
Tylenol is obviously something
So
that,
regulated means that it has gone through.
Except it was FDA approved, was it not? That's why it's available over the counter?
this is probably a good example of one that we can.
Probably not. I don't think it
Oh.
necessarily
I
means
do-
FDA approved, I meant. There's things you can buy
In June
over
of
the counter that are not FDA approved.
2019, that's why we saw all of these oil companies come in, because it
Right.
finally got approval
It was
for
approved.
over the
Mhm.
counter. I mean, it's available at, like,
You have to be
gas station.
approved as a distributor, you have to have a license, I think, through the state, it is in the state ag department, I think, manages it, but yeah, and
I'm
they're.
not
But it's
up
at
on
grocery
my
stores, it's
CBD
for
oil.
sale over the counter. So,
It's legal.
I just was wondering why it was in there, it just didn't
Right,
seem like
right.
it didn't fit with everything else, so.
It was new, and so I thought I better make sure I pointed it out to you guys, because as a matter of fact, I think someone brought it up at one time, asked about that, and so, again, we're happy to bring back more information about that if you'd like. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a lot about it, so.
I think we should at least ask the question.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just
Okay.
understanding it a little bit more clearly.
Absolutely.
So if we omit 5330 for now. Any other questions or discussion on the policy updates? Okay, so I will make a motion to pass all of these omitting 5330 for the time being.
Including the Title IX one?
Including Title IX. I did quick scan.
I
it, and
second
I'm
that,
a little-
I second.
So did you just second that then, Sherry?
Mhm.
So I have first, I have second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the 2021 budget. So we have an option here. Tom can give us the full spiel,
I would like to make a
the
motion to
shortened or the highlighted.
I like,
approve it.
he's not allowed to use the word tertiary.
He's worked so hard on it.
I know.
Which one, do you want me to do quick?
Very short.
Okay, I'll go quick.
We've seen it all.
We've seen it.
Okay,
Yeah, I read it,
The YouTube audience may want to see a little.
all right.
yes.
We've already done this at the,
All right, so I'll just walk us through here very quickly. It'll take just 5 minutes or so here to go through this presentation here. So I'll walk through how we get to our property tax levy here. So it's a 3-step process. The first step is we'll find out from state government how much money they'll contribute towards our revenue limit. Okay, that's step 1. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Let me jump back in. All right. All right, so step 1 is to find out how much equalization aid we get from state government. We find that out on October 15th. Step 2 is then we'll find out how much our total revenue limit is, and then from there, we can back into our property tax levy. All right, so state equalization aid plus our property tax revenue equals our revenue limit. So we had $49.3 million in shared costs last year, and that led to $23.288 million in equalization aid this year. Okay? So you can see on a graph how much we've gotten historically over the last 10 or so years. Our equalization aid went up almost 10% this year, and we were able to estimate that to within $1,500. So for the last 2 years, we've been able to accurately predict where we're at in the aid formula. So that was encouraging news there. So state government gives us $23.288 million towards our educational purposes. And then they give us a couple more forms of revenue that you can see, state aid for exempt computers and the state aid for exempt personal property. Those are very minor and not material in nature, but altogether state government is going to give us $23.373 million towards our school funding this year. So that's step 1, we got that checked off. How much money will we get in the revenue limit? Our 3-year average says that we have 4,706 members, and we get $10,000 per each of those members. So we get $47,060,000 total. On top of that, we have a couple additions we make. We got $350,000 additional dollars from our April 2016 question number 2. We also have a one-time adjustment of about $12,000. There's a $435,000 tax levy passed on to our taxpayers for students who participate in the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program, also known as the voucher program, and another $25,000 for students in the Special Needs Scholarship Program. When you add up all of those going down the line, we got $47.883 million. That is the ultimate amount of money we can collect through the revenue limit formula. So knowing that state government will contribute 23.3 million, we can back into our property tax levy, which is $24.5 million. We take the state aid of the $23.3 million and put that into the general fund, and then the school board has the tax levy authority to go up to $25.510 million and to place this money into any one of those three funds. Fund 38 is our short-term debt fund or a non-referendum debt fund, which we have done, so there is no need to put money in there. As we take a look at is how to divide this $24.5 million, we'll put $800,000 into the Fund 41, our capital expansion fund, and the remaining amount goes into the general fund. On top of that, we have two tax levies that occur outside of the revenue limit. We're going to levy $6.5 million for our referendum debt, and an additional $150,000 for our community service fund to pay for our 2 school resource officers. When we add up all of our levies, okay, the ones in blue are governed by revenue limits. The $10,000 per member is what drives that amount. What's in green is approved either by the residents or by the school board. The school board has the full authority on Fund 80, so we have $31.16 million for our full tax levy here proposed to you tonight. This is the amount of money per member that a school district gets. This, generally speaking, for all school districts will define about 85% of each school district's budget. There's some other forms of revenue that come in, but generally speaking, this is it. So you can see at $10,000 per member, we're at the lowest in the county. I don't have other school districts' tax levies. A lot of other school districts in Waukesha County are passing their tax levies tonight, so we'll know more and I can report back in November. But this is last year's. You can see at $771, we are the lowest in the county. This budget proposes an $8 mill rate, $8 even. So all things constant, we would still be the lowest in the county for Waukesha County K-12 school districts. The tax levy, as you can see, historically speaking, is high, is the highest it's been in this 10-year snapshot at $31.16 million. But when you consider the property value supporting it, that's where the mill rate, again, shakes out. So this tax levy was a $7.95 tax levy. This tax levy here is $8. So in terms of the mill rate, there's a lot more property values to support this higher levy. So we're looking to make 2 motions tonight here. One is to approve the tax levy and mill rate. The second is to approve the budget. The budget has, all the details are embedded in the purple budget booklet that's been shared with you. It's made public on our website for the public to see. We're looking for a motion here to approve the budget that consists of $79.399 million in revenues and $78.113 million in expenditures. If you guys have any questions tonight on any of the expenditure stuff in any of these funds, I can answer those questions right now. So that's the presentation here. That's the skinny version.
I would,
To make the motion to approve.
and
the
I would like
2021
to
tax
second
levy
that.
in the amount of $31.16 million and change and the mill rate of $8. And congratulate Tom in being within, what, $1,500 of his estimated budget.
Thanks, Mary. I'll put that in the motion.
Next year, we're gonna get closer.
Okay, so I have a motion. Did I get a
Oh,
second?
yeah, you're right, it should be
Yes,
separate.
second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the 2020-21 tax levy in the amount of $31.16 million and a mill rate of $8. I have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will make a motion to approve the 2020-21 budget consisting of $79.399 million in revenues and $78.1 million in change in expenditures.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so we also have the seclusion and restraint report.
So Christine Bowden is here tonight to explain that report and answer any questions that you might have.
All right, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. I always seem to mess up like the volume piece of this.
Join the club, it's fine.
So, this is the annual school report that reviews the data and the number of seclusion and restraint incidents that occurred in the 1920 school year. So on the report, you will see the number of incidents of seclusion and physical restraints in the previous years, going back to 17-18, and the total number of students involved in the incidents, and then the total number of students.
Move a little closer.
I was gonna say, look at that, you're right, you do, I screw up the
I think
volume.
it's cutting out.
I'm kidding.
Me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. It was not me this time.
It
I'm just
It
saying.
wasn't you.
So that's what you'll see in the 3 previous years is the historical data from the last 3 years. This year, actually in 2011, the previous act of 125, or the previous act of 125 was updated in 2019 to Act 118. And there were some pretty notable changes in the law regarding seclusion and restraint, which I can certainly go over with you if you are interested. All of those changes that would be relevant for the staff involved have been communicated to the questions for me. You can see that the data from this last 1920, that there were 46 incidents, 13 students involved, and of those 13 students, 11 of them were students with disabilities. Do you have any questions?
My only question is the changes, do you think there were positive changes, or?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good. Thanks, Christine. Okay, and then we'll move on to the Act 185 school closure report.
So the Act 185 school closure report, that is a requirement from the state legislature. They wanted information from all school districts based upon the closure last spring. And so we needed to fill out a survey, get sent to the Department of Public Instruction, and the Department of Public Instruction will compile all the data from all the districts and give that to the state legislature. So they asked questions about what kind of learning models we provided, what savings were realized, transportation costs, layoffs, food service, et cetera, et cetera. So we just need your approval on that. The survey has been submitted, and they want to make sure that you guys know that we did it.
So you don't need a motion and a vote for an approval, do you? Is it an actual action item, or do you need us to just say, you saw it, you did it?
I don't think it hurts to do an action item.
No.
It
We
just
put it on
knows
record
that,
we did
All right.
see it.
it just
Go for it.
demonstrates that you guys
I'll make the motion.
are aware.
I'll second.
Who
We
has
have a
that?
motion and a second.
Who has
Mary
that second?
and Jill and Cherry are fighting it out, so pick one.
If Jill doesn't,
And that motion would be to
Acknowledge the
Acknowledge that they-
survey responses.
That's perfect.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Substitute teacher pay rate.
So we talked about this at both the Personnel Committee and at the Finance and Facilities Committee. So we are, both committees that approved this, we're looking for permission from the full board to increase our rates of pay for substitute teachers to $130 per day for those who have subbed 20 days or less, either in this year or in the prior year, and to increase our rates of pay from $120 to $145 for any teacher, substitute teacher that's subbed on the 21st day or beyond in a given school year. Also looking for permission to give a $250 bonus to any substitute teacher after they complete 12 days of work with our district. We're looking to make these increases just for the remainder of this school year, and we'll reevaluate as we into next school year based on our needs of the district.
I would like to make a motion that we move ahead with the recommendations.
And I will second that. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. We already did the Title IX policy updates. We'll move down to virtual school updates, curriculum, textbooks, and senior credits. So I had presented to this.
textbooks that we had to match up. We had to match up what Apex used to be fair to the students instead of textbooks that we had previously approved. So
Yeah.
finally, the last thing I'm asking for the 2020-2021 school year is just that to possibly have the ability that credits. Thank you. Our seniors their credits, and that they are definitely not being harmed by our situation this year. So I went through it in more detail with the Student Learning Committee, but do you have any questions?
I make a motion to approve those textbooks.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then 2021 4K rates.
So I've proposed to the Finance Committee, which they're approving and recommending to the full board, to increase the rate of pay for our 4K payments to our community partners, to increase them from $2,725 per 4K student by $50 up to $2,775. Based on the number of 4K students we have this year, would increase our expenditures by $8,000. In comparing ourselves to other Waukesha County school districts that do a 4K community partner model, we lag behind others. So as we increase our revenue limit from $9,700 to $10,000 per student, I believe that we should increase our investment in order to continue to support our 4K community partners as they navigate the same issues we do in terms of attracting quality teachers and all those other things. So as I said, the Finance Committee has recommended this to the full board. Any questions?
No questions? All right, anybody would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 27-25 increase to 4Ks.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we have a
I'll
motion
call.
and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. We have the 2020-21 calendar update.
So as we discussed the various needs throughout this year, like many districts, it was hard to predict things that we should have put in a calendar for this year. And so we do have a situation coming up that we have been talking a lot about behind the scenes. And that is the first time that our students and parents will be able to choose in the elementary setting to either enter the virtual setting at the trimester or to leave that setting and go back face-to-face. And with that, as we're discussing with the virtual teachers and our face-to-face settings, there are a long list of things that we're gonna need to be prepared for in order to truly support families and not have children feel like this is kind of a last minute, you go this way, you go that way. And so one of our solutions to that would be to add a professional development day on Friday, December 4th, which would coincide then with just bumping the trimester back a day, and then officially starting that trimester on Monday, December 7th instead. This would allow us to fully set up teachers' rooms, which means bring in more desks, bring in plexiglass, make name tags for students who haven't previously been in the classroom, make sure that we have materials ready for them, to make sure that our teachers have a little bit of time to look at their data coming in and to connect with the virtual students. We do anticipate that we could have some more virtual teachers or students also at that time. And so this would allow our virtual teachers to meet with those students without a whole group there that Friday in order to go through the technologies they're going to need to learn. We are finding that when students were adding to that setting, it's difficult for the teacher to, especially if they're in first grade, to bring them up to speed on everything that everybody else can just do. So it would provide for that also. IEPs, make sure that teachers are up to date with the IEPs. We don't We don't want it to feel like we're not preparing and ready for those students in a learning setting. In addition, then, at the high school, middle school and high school level where that transition is not happening yet, I don't think that we can underestimate in any way the work that is going into just this being a different year in a teaching model. And so I had listed some things on the memo that we would definitely allow those teachers to be doing for the day, which is to work on co-teaching, to continue to look at pacing that may be off with the model, to be recording lessons at our middle school, to continue to talk about the block schedule that they have taken on this year, but we didn't have the time to do complete and full professional development to bring in, and so on and so forth. So for student learning needs, asking that we would add to the calendar Friday, December 4th as a professional development day.
I have a question. Just curious, have you had any indication on a preliminary basis on the number of students wanting to move from virtual to?
So we did do a preliminary survey a couple, probably about 3 weeks ago. We just sent out to parents as part of a survey to see K-6 families to see just about their experience, which was very, very positive so far. One of the questions was if you had to make the decision today, and we told them the timeline for really making the decision, which opened up today and will close November 12th. But if they had to make the decision, what would they do? I will be very honest, the return rate on that survey was not great. We have 330 some virtual families. I think we only got 80 who responded. But at that time, it looked like about 20% of those K-6 students would be electing to come back into our buildings, and about 80% would be staying in the virtual setting for the second trimester.
So to clarify, when you say a built-in professional development day, are we calling this early release for K-6 or a no school day?
A no school
It's a
day.
no school day, K-12. Right? I'm just clarifying.
Right.
I'm not.
How does,
Yeah.
how does
saying
it
we
fall into our student contact days or anything like that? We have plenty.
Do you have those numbers in front of you that you gave us today?
I mean, it's not gonna
Or
cause
no?
an issue.
So we have plenty of built-in hours. So each of our levels, elementary, middle school, and high school, has at least 2 additional days of built-in hours.
Okay.
So we're not in danger of not having enough instructional hours per state law. And then I also remind you that we are moving forward with virtual learning on our snow and cold days, if we have any
Never
this
have
year.
off. Yeah.
So we're in good shape.
Mr. Freeze over there. I would like to make a motion that we move ahead with the addition of
I second.
December 4th, Professional Development Day. I lost the day again.
Okay, so we have a motion. Art, Cherry, did you second that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I just have a question, and then just to clarify, so middle school and high school, they don't have the option to come back or switch until semester 2, which is
Semester,
January?
correct.
Right, okay.
Yep.
And then when do you start that process with the parents on
Uh,
making that decision?
We'll start that in December with a final date right before Christmas break, so we can hit the ground running on making plans in the buildings for that the beginning of January.
And tell us again, how many kids is that between middle school and high school, approximately?
We're at
Wasn't high school about 200?
220 some and 100, so 300 and
About
some.
300.
Yep. I mean, there's definitely going to be things involved with bringing the students, but they're also coming at a very clear grading break. Different, I mean, there's a grading break at the elementary school, but the environment is just very different for bringing them back in.
I was wondering, if they don't come back, if they don't come back now, are they allowed to come back the third trimester or?
At the
is it-
K-6?
Yeah,
Yep, we'll
yeah.
open it up again at the third trimester too.
Okay.
We did include a calendar for 2020, 21 in your folder today.
Yep.
So in your packet, there was a calendar proposed for next school year, but in your folder tonight is a calendar for this school year. So you get a little better idea of the date that Stephanie's proposing, but then you can also see that we have a break a semester break for middle school, high school.
But the 4th isn't on this one. It's
Right.
the one you
Correct,
proposed.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion and I have a second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving into unfinished business.
We are doing so well tonight, but I do need to tap the brakes here. We need to go back, and I apologize. This is my fault. I should have caught this. But when we approved the budget and the levy, we are supposed to do a roll call
Oh,
vote.
and roll call, yeah.
All right,
So I apologize. I should have, like I said, tapped the brakes. So if we can just go back and do roll call vote for the budget and the levy, I think that would be the best thing to do.
And you want, they're separate.
We should do
Right.
it separate too.
we should do it separate. So first we had
Okay, so I'll
the
make the-
motion made by
I'll
Mary,
just
then
Tax
Art,
levy.
for the mill rate of $8 and the tax levy in the amount of 31.16 million.
Erica, comments?
Yes.
Mary Demore?
Yes.
Joel Fredericks?
Yes.
Andy Menke is not here. Art Schneider?
Hey, yes.
Craig Wirtz is not here. Jeff Vogel?
Yes.
Jill Warner?
Yes.
Barry Winchowski, yes.
Okay, and then we had the motion by,
I think, Erica, you motioned for the
me,
budget
who was
approval.
second,
Art?
for the 2021 budget consisting of 79.4 million in revenues and 78.113 in expenditures.
Sherry Winchowski, yes. Jill Warner?
Yes.
Jeff Vogel?
Yes.
Craig's not here. Art Schneider?
Yes.
Andy Menke not here. Joel Fredericks?
Yes.
Mary Demore?
Yes.
Erica Connors?
Yes. Okay, both carry again. So now we will
Thank
go
you.
back, thank you, to unfinished business.
So the first item in my superintendent's report is graduation options for this coming June. So our two preferred dates for Miller Park, which will be American Family Park by the time the baseball season opens up this year. The Brewers are in town. So June 6 and June 13, the first two Sundays in June, are not available. And so we are wondering, are you interested in having graduation back at Mukwonago High School as we did this year? Or do you want us to pursue other dates at Miller Park, which would include, and Jim has them in the memo, there are a couple of weeknights such as June 8th or June 9th. Memorial Day weekend, which I know the high school administration is not real keen on, and then also Sunday, June 20. I don't think the Saturdays will work. I just want to remind you, because of the changes that the WIA made with the alternate fall season moving into sort of that spring shoulder season, the traditional spring sports season is extended into June. And so I believe we have some state tournaments on that Saturday, June 19. Sundays work, but Saturdays might not. We may have kids competing in tennis or golf state competition. So I guess we were looking for your input. I know some of you are very passionate about Miller Park, and we completely understand that. That's been a lot of success for us. We can also survey our seniors and our senior parents. And maybe McKenna wants to weigh in too.
Miller Park.
Going into the 20th?
Yep.
You would like to wait for?
Fine.
Agree.
And you guys both have seniors, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
That's why we
I mean, I would like to see it at Miller Park also, because, I mean, we're taking so many things from the parents, and that's really the only facility that would accommodate
It's really about us.
family, and it's,
Well,
well,
you
I have
can
a
socially
junior, so
distance
it's
well.
not about me.
It will be. nice.
But, you know, it's us doing everything we can to thank the parents and the seniors and give them that special event, which we all agree has been, you know, far exceeds anything else that we could put together.
I agree. I mean, I just think that from a convenience standpoint, especially for seniors and those that have a little bit of a disability, to get in and out of Miller Park is a whole lot easier than getting around a football stadium or a basketball arena. And I just think, for the same reasons Art mentioned, it would be nice to be able to do that.
I think we should keep in consideration that we may still be here and not get it all set, and then not be able to have that many people in for American Family Park, because it could still be that at the end of the year, we have restrictions on, and so I think we should make a plan A and plan B, so it isn't
Sure.
quite as uncertain as it was till the very last minute, because we now know
Yes.
what it can look like.
Yep, the high school administration certainly will have Plan B in place, that if we are unable to go to Miller Park, American Family Park, because of COVID restrictions, they'll be prepared.
All right.
And if they keep, because last year the Brewers too kept flipping their yes, no, so.
And that's always a challenge for us, we understand that. Just, I guess one last question, are you in agreement that Sunday, June 20 is better than Memorial Day weekend?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And please know, Sunday, June 20 is Father's Day. That would not bother me, but I don't know if it bothers other
No.
dads.
I think a lot of ones do it on Mother's Day, right? Don't they? A lot of schools?
There is no better gift for a father than to get rid of a child. Father of 4, let me tell you.
There you go.
That's when you say, I do not represent the views of this whole entire board.
Oh, that was my.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing from the board is that we should pursue vigorously the Miller Park option. And we would go with Sunday, June 20. We would try to get those weeknight. Are those okay with you?
think
If
it's-
Sunday, June 20 wouldn't be available for some reason, or are you okay with a weeknight,
9.
June
That'd
8th
be
or
fine.
9th?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. And then Memorial Day, I guess, would be the third distant option?
Yeah.
Memorial Day does really create some challenges for the end of the school year. The seniors more than likely would have to come back after the graduation ceremony to attend class and take finals. So I'm sure that will
She was
not
really
be a
hoping not.
popular
Yeah.
option.
Yes.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for your input. Winter sports. So we're just completing, I shouldn't say completing yet, our fall sports season, but we did have a couple of bumps with our fall sports, but I would say overall, and they're not done yet, but overall they have gone extremely well. And so we're really pleased with how fall sports have gone this year, and so we are proceeding with planning our winter sports. We do have a number of winter sports at Mukwonago High School and Parkview Middle School. I don't want you to forget about Parkview also, but that includes girls and boys basketball at the high school, girls and boys hockey, gymnastics, boys swim and dive, and wrestling at MHS. And then for Parkview, we'd be talking about wrestling and boys basketball. They just completed the girls basketball season at Parkview. So the WIA does have regulations and guidelines for us to follow. Obviously, all the sports, and we're not quite sure how this will work, but the mask mandate is in place. So some of the sports start on Monday, November 16, others start a week later on the 23rd. The mask mandate at the earliest would end on, I think, the 21st of November. So masks will be required for at least some of the sports for the first week. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was extended. So we are going to have to work through that. But the WIA expects schools and athletes to follow the mask mandate. And these sports obviously are indoors. It's not like cross country and tennis and golf this past fall that were outside. Football.
And wrestling, where you're spitting on everybody.
Maybe it's best. So,
Until you
I-
strangle one another.
I guess we wanted to make sure we brought this to your attention now, and then if you have concerns or questions, we can come back for the November 23rd meeting with more information for you, or we can bring it to committees, obviously. But now's a good time to give us a heads up on what you would like us to explore. And I know, Mary, I think maybe at the last meeting, you mentioned that temperature checks, we should be implementing those before we get kids on the bus, because we did have an issue, and we are addressing that. So if you, and I know the packet is thick, but temperature checks are going to be implemented for before competitions.
So is that just for the winter sports, or are we going to
That's
do the
win-
temperature checks for the rest of the fall?
So winter sports, and then and I will follow up with an email to make sure that this is accurate, but I believe for any, boy, I better check. I want to say that for postseason competition, we have to do temperature checks also for fall sports. But I need to confirm that.
But,
Sorry.
but you're saying you don't need to do temperature checks for fall sports regular season
It's not required, is what I'm saying.
on the buses? It's not required.
It's not required, no.
Okay.
But again, I better get that, I better double check on that.
Art, are you suggesting it is required?
No, I just, I'm just trying to figure out why one is and one isn't, but that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
I'm good with whatever's required.
So, question regarding basketball, specific to that, as they did with the fall sports in the Classic 8, will they be doing something similar as far as attendees and all that kind of thing for,
I would imagine.
on a conference basis, based upon the WIAA recommendations? Is that, how is that gonna all work?
So I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't catch, did you say
If-
spectators?
Yeah, he's
Right.
talking like,
Right.
So
Two
we
pairs.
have not discussed that, but yes, there will be restrictions
Okay.
on the number of spectators, just as we did for indoor sports. And some of that will be based upon the conversations, the Classic 8 athletic directors and superintendents. Obviously, we'll also have to take into account Waukesha County recommendations on large group size. And then, of course, because it's indoors, it's a little different than meeting outdoors.
At what point do we expect that to be finalized?
Spectators?
Yeah.
I think I believe we have, I want to say we have a meeting in early November,
Okay.
athletic directors and superintendents for Waukesha County, Classic 8, excuse me, for the Classic 8. But I can get that information to you.
So did you need anything else for
No,
that?
I was just wondering if you guys had questions or concerns. Then I also have a calendar proposal in the packet for next school year. It is a very rough draft. We're just starting that process. But I wanted to share some of those parameters with you to make sure that we had a good start and that you didn't have major concerns before we got too far down the road. But as you can see, we again start on September 1. As you know, per state law, we can't start before September 1st, and we again finish on June 10, just like this year. Thanksgiving, winter, and spring breaks are very similar. No need for us to take off for the election next year. Not a high turnout election scheduled for November in Wisconsin. And then as part of our equity efforts, I am recommending that we don't have school on Monday, January 17. So that would be new for us, certainly not new for other districts in the area. And then there's also, as I mentioned earlier, no need to plan for the snow cold makeup because we will be able to do those virtually. the calendar looks pretty similar to this year.
Yeah, it does.
So-
I was gonna say, it
so-
looks fine to me.
Just keeping you posted on that. Christine is here to talk about an update on the 18 to 21-year-old program. We continue to make good progress there.
I have to say, I'm glad that the microphone did it for Stephanie, too. Actually, this is just really brief, but we spent a lot of time talking about the 18 to 21-year-old program last year. And so I decided to take it just a few minutes just to give you a little bit of some positive news. So just like everybody else, the 18 to 21-year-old program is continuing to adjust to COVID-19. But in the meantime, as we are figuring out our ways to get back into our everyday routines, we have cleaned out the greenhouse at the high school, and they are actively using it. So we are excited about that. They're continuing to work on landscaping and greeting cards. One of the speech and language pathologists, Sarah Wright, does a phenomenal job taking kids out into the community and working on several different things, including working at the post office and then at the library. So really, I included the update from Carrie Flynn, who is our 18 to 21-year-old teacher in the district, and I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. That was it. So thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Thank you.
The funding for this program, I mean, do we work with donors as well?
Yeah, so actually inside the letter, you'll see that we have received quite a few things from the Donors Choose fundraiser. So they, this organization works to give items to schools on behalf of educational opportunities. And then the actual funding for the 18 to 21-year-old program is funded the same as other special education programs are funded, which I'm sure Tom would love to talk about the budget again. Did you want to?
Oh, he doesn't have a mic though. Darn it. Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Christine? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And Sean, did you have anything else under unfinished business?
No, I do not.
Okay, I do not have anything for the board president report, but we do have legislation and correspondence.
Yeah, so the correspondence, I have a memo regarding our donor recognition for October 2020. We want to make sure that we recognize Lynch Chevrolet of Mukwonago. As you are very aware, Lynch is a strong community partner, and they have donated a lot of money and time to the district. This past summer, they held a number of drive-in movies in the MHS parking lot, and they donated $1,000 toward our Family Relief Fund. So we want to thank Lynch and their general manager, Mark Green, for all of their outstanding support. Also, Dave Bartholomew, local farmer, nominated Jeff Grant. Jeff is a physical education teacher, great physical education teacher at Big Bend Elementary. Dave had nominated him and Big Bend to receive the America's Farmers Grow Communities grant, and Big Bend received a $2,500 grant through that program, and they are able to purchase more physical education supplies and equipment. And just to note that Dave is another strong partner of the district in Big Bend. This is not the first time he's nominated us for that grant, and so we really appreciate his support. And then we also want to thank all the PTOs, or PTGs, that were involved in providing meals for our staff during the parent-teacher conferences this past Thursday evening. All of our schools, their PTOs, their PTGs were a big help, but we also want to mention a few of the restaurants that were used and donated food and beverages to our staff. So Zazing's in North Prairie for the Prairie View staff. Rolling Hills, Elegant Farmer, and Simply Delish Cupcakes. At Section, we want to thank Angela and Eduardo Alarcon. So Alarcon's family with lots of wonderful restaurants and always have been strong supporters of our school. So we want to thank Angela and Eduardo for their help with the meal at Section, and then Cousin Subs at the high school.
Wonderful. All right. Do I have any other board member questions?
I do have a couple. I had heard from a couple of parents that they had some reports. I have gotten 2 emails, so I'll say a couple emails regarding the masks, and that some of the that there's slacking as the school year is going on. It's getting a little less slack, and that it is on some level concerning the teachers. So I didn't know if maybe a reminder could go out, and it's mainly at the middle of the day for the recess that they kind of don't have them on, and they're in the bathrooms, and they're so, some of the kids come in from recess and have to put their masks right back on. Other ones don't put them on until they go in the classroom, so they're in bathrooms and out in the hallways and whatever without their masks on. And so I was bringing that to attention. And then the other thing that is, I called today and asked. So our policy as far as close contact with someone who is diagnosed with COVID is 48 hours. And I was wondering if that is accurate. I'm just checking in on it because it's supposed to be like 3 days before. And
So I guess I don't understand the question. What's the question?
the question is if there's a positive case, how far back do they go for close contact for the students if it would be a staff member?
So if a student or a staff member tests positive,
Okay.
so I might need a little help here, Christine, but we both probably need our school district nurses here. But from the date of the first symptoms, I think you go back 2 days from the day of the first symptom. So I don't know if I'm answering your
So
question.
is that based on Waukesha County recommendation?
Yeah, that's Waukesha
48
County
hours?
CDC
Okay.
guideline. Yep.
That's the Waukesha County.
Right.
So you may test positive on Sunday, but your symptoms had started on Wednesday. So we would go back to Monday actually to look for close contact, so Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yep.
Okay.
I can tell you that our contact tracers are doing their very best. We did not have a good day in the district today, and so we are being overwhelmed. We are not the only ones. If you have followed the news carefully, you've seen that a number of counties have had to reduce the amount of contact tracing that they're doing because they are overwhelmed by the number of positive cases. We are doing all of our contact tracing, but it is an incredible amount of work, not only for our nursing staff, but we're also very fortunate to have a number of volunteer contact tracers and our administrators. I can tell you that a number of administrators today spent their entire day working on contact tracing.
Is there specific qualifications that you need to have to be a volunteer contact tracer? Or like that one email that Jeff read said there are people out there willing to help if we would put something on our webpage or something like that.
I think all of our contact tracers are registered nurses.
But if someone would want to do that, can they go through that course and be of help to you?
Yeah, we can find out. We can come back with that information.
Because
Sure.
if that's what we need to do, and there are registered nurse moms at home, I know there are some, that would be willing to do it, even if they could do it first.
You don't need to be a registered nurse to be a contact tracer, because I applied for the job.
So did I, and that's why, but I just didn't know what, that doesn't mean that that's not what our school
Got it,
district's asking. I understand for Waukesha County, you don't have to be, but I didn't know what they were asking for the,
State, you didn't have to be.
right.
So Noelle Mengi, one of our district nurses, just texted me saying 48 hours prior to symptoms start is when we look at close
There's
contact.
someone watching.
That means Noelle is watching. I know.
Yes,
that.
she is.
Wow.
She and 28 others, so we thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
Referring to one of the emails, how are we doing with the substitute teacher issue throughout the district?
So the last 10 days, we have been doing significantly better. And so we're really pleased to report that we believe that the pay increase has helped. We also have had not quite as many absences. Now, unfortunately, today we took a step back with the number of teachers going out. But prior to today, I'd say the last week to 10 days, we were in much better shape with substitute teachers. We are still struggling with finding enough people to fill our substitute openings for instructional assistants and other support staff positions, but our teacher openings have been filled. We've been very pleased.
And we've been using, like Andy Trudell and things, James Darren, as substitutes in the last week or two.
So maybe the last few days, they haven't had to because we've had enough substitute teachers fill the vacancies. But prior to that, those guys were subbing, yes.
Okay.
I can't tell you the number of times I've called over to MHS and needed to speak to one of them, and they were not available because they were in the classroom.
But you wouldn't say there's like an overabundance of substitute teachers knocking down our doors?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would
I
not
just
say
wanted-
that.
I wanted to
I'd say
get
we're just in
clarification.
better
because-
position. You know, when we met for the personnel committee, you were there, Art. I was really worried.
Yeah.
We were struggling.
All right.
Are instructional assistants also hired through TOC?
Yes. Well, instructional assistants, substitutes, yes.
Instructional assistants
Yes.
are all through, also
Mhm.
through TOC.
Other questions?
Then I will make a motion that we move into executive session.
I will second that.
I hope we can have a roll call.
Erica Connor,
Yes.
Mary Diamore,
Yes.
Joel Frederick,
Yes.
Andy McGee not here, Art Schneider,
Yes.
Craig Wirtz not here, Jeff Vogel,
Yep.
Jill Warner,
Yes.
Terry Winchowski.
All right, just a couple minutes.